Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Just to remind the listener, title of your book?
A Brief History of the Earth's Climate.
Yeah, we have to promote it. It's all about promotion. We have to get people burn that in their head. A Brief History of Climate. It probably took you about a year to write, or 2 years. Like, how long did it take for you to write?
About a year to write it.
Yeah. And how hungry were the publishers to grab onto it?
They jumped at it, actually. It's interesting. I live on a little island off the coast of Vancouver Island. The island is called Gabriola Island, and there's a publisher with their headquarters right here on this island.
Oh, wow.
New Society Publications, and they've done lots of this kind of stuff before. And they also do things on gardening but lots of climate books. And they were keen. So
right now I'm in Hong Kong, so in a place very far away. But I actually have a little plot of land on Savory.
Really,
I love BC.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next photo.
Sure. Very different.
I'm eating this up. This is so good. Okay, so this one's called PETM Core, and it's like a slide which I assume you use in the classroom. There's a heading on top that says Ocean Drilling Program Core 1220B. I don't know what that is. There's a centimeter scale which starts at the absolute left at 40 and it goes absolute right to about 76 centimeters. And then you've got the earth, basically slices of earth that are on the left tan, then it's super, super dark, almost to black, and then kind of rusty, and then tan, like a clay sampling. And then at the bottom, it says 55.7 MA. And then within there, it says Paleocene, Eocene, thermal maximum. And then it goes 55.8 MA. And please take it away. This is great.
Okay. So, Ocean Drilling Program, there's a multi-institution program of drilling cores in the seafloor. The title of this whole thing should be 3 Mountains and a Pile of Mud. And here's the pile of mud. The ocean floor is covered with sediments that have accumulated there over millions of years. And these are 55 million years old. It's quite deep into the ocean floor, but it's this absolutely priceless record of the Earth's history on the ocean floor. So this ocean drilling program was evolved to go out and sample the ocean floor and look at that stuff and do work on it. And so this is just one example. The core 1220B, the 1220 is the 1,220th drill hole that was drilled into the ocean floor. And since then, there's probably been as many again by this one drilling ship. Anyway, so it's a section through the sediment that is accumulated on the floor of the ocean. This one actually comes from a couple of 100 kilometers southeast of Hawaii.
Okay.
That's not important because it's the same thing was recorded in similar core from many different places around the world.
Sure.
The Paleocene is one of the recent epochs, and it ended at 55.8 million years ago, and that's when we moved into the Eocene.
Right.
And this actually marks that boundary, and it's interesting because you've heard of periods and eons and eras and so on, and they're most of them are defined by changes in the fossil record.
Yeah.
And this one is as well.
Yeah, I need to interrupt for a second just to say, like, listening to what you're saying and then just looking at the visual presentation of that earth core, or the sample, like, you know, if the soil tells a story, it's what I'm looking at seems really dramatic because the change between Eocene and Paleocene is like it's not just like, oh, it kind of faded or whatever. There's a line. There's like,
Yeah,
it's
it's abrupt.
dramatic.
Yeah,
So go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, so at the end of the Paleocene, there was a sudden warming. And we know that because samples taken out of this core and out of hundreds of other cores have been analyzed, and they've analyzed the proportions of oxygen isotopes
Right.
in those samples, and that is an indicator of temperature. And over the interval shown, the Earth's temperature went up about 5 degrees, 4 to 5 degrees.
Oh. Oh.
And yeah, so and that period of where the core is black is kind of the period during which it got really warm by that much. That's a huge difference.
Wow. Yeah.
And it lasted, as you can see, for 100,000 years, 55.8 to 55.7 million years ago. And a lot of species went extinct, and there were a lot of changes, ecosystem changes in the oceans and on land all around the Earth at that time.
Yeah.
The reason that it's important and why I wanted to put this picture here is because what we're doing right now is not so different from what happened right at that boundary, 55.8. Wow. There was a fairly abrupt, at least in geological terms, abrupt change in the Earth's temperature, an increase of about 4 to 5 degrees. When I say abrupt, it actually took place over 20,000 years.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
but
you compare that with what we've done. In 60 years, we've increased the temperature by 1 degree.
Yeah.
In 20,000 years, naturally, at that boundary, the temperature increased by 4 degrees. Over 20,000 years. We've done it a quarter of that in 60 years. That's scary. But the really scary thing is that triggered a series of changes, feedbacks that caused this dramatic change in the climate, increase 4 to 5 degrees, and it lasted for 100,000 years.
Yeah.
And it's not very different from what we're doing now. In fact, what we're doing now is worse.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I'm responding to you as somebody who's listening to what you're saying and connecting with it, and also the visual aid that you've offered, which is so powerful. So it's kind of like, okay, so you showed that line is actually about 20,000 years of actual time. And when you look at what, just visually what happens at that line, it goes dark. It goes almost black. Like it's, and then it's basically, it's like it's shades of brown. But yeah, so whatever happened in those 20,000 years and thereafter, it is something to be stressed about and panicked about because it is so dramatic. Yeah. So tell us why.
So the sediments on the seafloor, it's mud, but it's made up of a bunch of different things, and the light colors in here are from shells of tiny creatures called forams or foraminifera that live in the surface ocean water or deeper water. And when they die, they sink to the bottom, and they're made of calcium carbonate, and they make the sediment light. When this change took place, it wasn't just a change in the temperature, the water warmed up, but also the amount of carbon dioxide in the whole Earth system increased dramatically.
Right.
And that increased the acidity of the ocean, which is happening now.
Yep.
And that changed the way calcium carbonate sediments behave and how soluble they are. So suddenly, whereas little tiny fragments of calcium carbonate were stable on the seafloor at this location, suddenly they became totally soluble. And so for the period when the sediment is black, there was nothing, no calcium carbonate was able to accumulate at this site. Gradually, the conditions improved, or at least changed, and a little bit more calcium carbonate was able to survive here, and it gets lighter
Yeah.
towards the left, as you can see there. So it's a dramatic change in the composition of the sediment on the seafloor that reflects a change in the acidity of ocean water
Yeah.
during that period, but also massive temperature increase,
Okay.
die off of tons of things, and a really important lesson to us that if we don't make some changes very quickly, then this kind of thing can happen and we won't be able to control it.
Yeah. These things are so complex, and
Yeah.
you've dedicated your adult cognitive life to wrapping your head around this, and I appreciate you even just sharing an hour's worth of that into something so the curious person can learn something. And so I appreciate it. When it's this complex, how are you able to work across different fields, looking at things like ecology and looking at other areas of science to broaden your understanding of, well, what is that impact really? I mean, because it's one brain can only fit so much. So how do you? It's amazing that humans can actually figure this out.
These things have been figured out by thousands, tens of thousands of scientists.
Sure.
So I'm trying to synthesize what these people have done over decades,
Right.
And make it something that people will understand, and so on. I have a fairly strong geological background, but biological or chemistry or physics, I'm weak. I try to understand as much as I can of those things as they are relevant to
Right.
what we're looking at here.
Would you say the arc of this conversation follows kind of how you shaped your book? So let's transition to your book. What is the story that you kind of addressed in this book? And you're probably going to write another one, I assume.
Don't know. Not. Yeah, maybe.
Your publisher asked me to kind of push you, to nudge you. I'm joking, kidding.
So the book looks at not all, but many of the different natural processes of climate change, going way back, like changes in the sun and changes, plate tectonics and so on, and just summarizes all of those, talks about how those changes happened and why they're important and so on. And then the last couple chapters of the book talk about the implications for now, for us, anthropogenic climate change, how it is similar to what's happened in the past, and how lessons that we have learned from studying natural climate change can be applied to studying anthropogenic climate change, but also how it's different.
Right.
And the difference, the main difference, the one that we should be most concerned about, is the rate at which it's changing.
Absolutely.
Because, as I said, it's unprecedented, and we really don't know what we're doing.
Right.
And we've got to stop doing it.
Stephen.
Ran.
Good man. Represent. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
Oh, pleasure. It was fun to do this.
You're great.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.